You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Jamie will educate and empower people, organizations, and communities to help us all make better health and well-being choices. She will also engage you with expert influencers from around the world. So now, please welcome the host of Happiness Ninja Down Under, Jamie Rose.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm your host, Jamie Rose, and you're on the Bold Brave Network coming to you live. I am in New York City again, and I have another wonderful guest I'm interviewing this week. He's coming to you from Indiana. His name is Greg Kruger. Thanks, Greg, for joining me. How's things going there today?
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
You're very welcome. So you are, let me get it right, it's a alignment and integration coach. Is that right?
That's what I call it. That's a self-made title, yes.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I've not heard that. Would you like to share exactly what that entails? I know it's to do with NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming. But other than that, could you share with the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first part, alignment, it's really, NLP is one of the biggest tools that I use, but I don't know that it's based from NLP, this specific aspect, but alignment just being in connection with self, right? Being in connection with your energy. And when we are in alignment with who we are as a truth, because most of us aren't, even people who are really living their truth sometimes have moments of being out of alignment. So the truth is just to always be in alignment with yourself, the best that you can. And from that space, you make different choices and you pick up different things. And the integration aspect is just picking up new practices, integrating them into your life, and then growing from there, becoming more of who you really are.
So you're kind of like a life coach. You're helping people to stay in alignment to their truth. I would assume maybe discover their alignment and their truth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Pointing people towards discovery of their own truth by use of the tools that we have, this brain and this body, and the energy that we have, all separate things, right? Maybe so, but using the brain and the body and how it actually works in order to optimize your life. And that's where the NLP really comes in. Okay.
So I think we probably do similar things. I'm not NLP based, I'm positive psychology based, but the general principle is the same. We help people to make better choices and be more of themselves and show up in alignment in their day-to-day lives. So yeah, that's essentially like why I think we connected. I know that this is a path that you've deviated and joined in parallel forces with your existing role as the Chief Operating Officer of DREEM Nutrition. So was that kind of an organic shift to add that as a parallel modality alongside what you're already doing?
So that's interesting. I spent actually the better part of 18 years in sales in the pharmaceutical industry. Mm-hmm. So and I won't sidetrack into that space, but I believe there's a time and place for pharmaceutical intervention. But the evolution of Greg Kruger was beyond the industry that I was in. As I was learning, as I was working with my own coaches, becoming a coach, I needed to make a shift, and I hadn't gotten to the point where I wanted to make coaching what I do 100% of the time. But I needed an exit from pharmaceuticals, and I had the opportunity to build this company and really shift to what I believe more in, because I do believe in supplementation. What we put in our body is important. And if we can use natural plant-based medicines that supplement systems that exist within our body, to me, that is far more potent than any prescription meds you can do. And it's my goal in life is to be involved in helping people. And whether that's in the physical space with powerful plant-based medicines or supplements rather, or whether it's in the coaching space, both of those things allow me to positively impact people's lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just wanted to go back to what you said. You said the evolution of Greg Kruger, and I just love the way that you said that in the third person. That's cute, and I think I might adopt that. I'm going to tell people the evolution of Jamie Rose just outweighed and out exceeded all the things I was doing previously.
Well, right, because, I was getting into understanding how we can create our programs, how we create our lives, and how our body and brain do that together. And that doesn't require any prescription drugs, right? And I was getting more into the Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff, like where we met, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so if I could no longer find alignment, back to alignment here, the alignment of who I was not with an industry that really pushes so many pills and really is in a space where I no longer believe. So yeah, I had to go. That was the best thing ever. It's
very interesting because a lot of people who, I think most people who are on the same path or similar paths to ourselves, they've had some kind of background that hasn't been all that positive involving big pharma and the push for the medical industry. So it's definitely not a coincidence, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I was fortunate with the products that I represented. So I always told myself from the day I started that I would never sell anything that I wouldn't be okay with my mom taking. And that was kind of my guidepost. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's even that becomes, if you dig deeper and deeper into it, it becomes a big wormhole, because not always we're given the true facts, and
yeah,
the facts that can be misconstrued as well.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you crossed over and have joined our side of the fence.
Me too.
We do have to cut to a break in about a minute, so I won't get fully stuck into your journey yet. But in a nutshell, can you tell the audience a little bit about what NLP is and how you use that with your coaching?
NLP stands for Neurolinguistic Programming, and to me, it's the understanding and explanation of the physiology, neurology, and how the body and mind work to create our habits and our programs. Because the body really is, we're born with really this empty slate. Babies do have some sense of instincts, but their brains are pretty empty slates to where they pick up on everything that's around them. And so when we understand how we pick up this information and how it becomes part of our everyday motions and movements, then we understand how we can both create and reinstall new programs when programs no longer serve us. So
yeah, we can unprogram ourselves, so to speak.
Yes, because most of the programs we have, we didn't choose.
Exactly. They were instilled on us before the age of 6 years old. We do have to cut to a break, but I think we might have opened up a can of worms that we'll have to get back into when we come back from the break. So stay tuned, guys, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under, guys. I'm Jamie Rose, the host of this series, and you are on the Bold Brave TV network, coming to you live. I have the very awesome Greg Kruger here. He is the COO of DREEM Nutrition, and he is it's activation and integration coach. Did I get that right?
Alignment and integration.
No, I didn't want to look down. I was like, I know it starts with A, but my mind went blank. Gotta love this live TV.
It's all right. We all make up our own names for how we coach, right? I saw something I wanted to ask you about on your profile, but anyways, not today.
You can ask quickly.
It was this. What your title is? There was the second part of it. Psych of something.
Positive psychology.
Yeah, and then there was something else.
Oh, the strength profile psychometric.
That I have no. What is that?
So I'm trained in a modality called strength profile. So basically, you do a psychometric. It's 180 questions, and the answers categorize your behavior into different sections. So you learn a lot about your realized strengths, your unrealized strengths, your learned behaviors, which is basically programming from childhood. So your NLP part of you would love that. And then your weaknesses and how we can basically use our strengths and our unrealized strengths to mitigate and counteract our weaknesses and to change our learned behaviors.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We'll talk more about that. I might have to take that test.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, no, you would love it. I've done it 4 times before I became a practitioner in it. So, and it has life-changing impacts.
Nice.
Yeah. But this is about you, so. Yeah. So I want to know. So I obviously, as a coach, I'm aware of NLP. It's not a modality that I've been particularly drawn to myself. Can you talk a little bit more about it, like from a practicality point of view? Like, how do you help people to change their programming and to make improvements in their life?
Yeah, so some of it is as simple as the language, and that's one piece that I really love about it, and understanding how language works. And one fun example I like to give is the brain doesn't understand a negative command. So if I say, don't think of a blue elephant, you don't have a choice. Even if you are not a visual person and you try to say, Greg, I didn't think of a blue elephant, I'm going to say that's impossible, because the way our physiology and neurology works is that once you learn what these words think of a blue elephant mean, and they have definition and they're just vibration that's interpreted by the brain, then when you encounter that vibration, the brain interprets it. So simply saying, don't think of a blue elephant, the brain has to interpret what thinking of a blue elephant even means. And in doing that, when the brain creates that, it will create an image of what that is. So you will think of a blue elephant, you'll have a corresponding response to it. So the power in this is, and I use this example all the time, is somebody might tell their children, hey, don't spill that milk. Don't spill your milk. And then they spill their milk, and then the parent might get upset and say, I just told you not to spill the milk. But that child's brain processed, what does it look like to spill the milk? And so they're more likely to spill the milk. However, if you tell the child, hey, could you please be careful with that milk? Then what the brain is doing is creating a picture of what it looks like to be careful. Can they still spill the milk? Sure. But their likelihood is changed exponentially. And the key here is always ask for what you want. Right? Use words that state what you want versus words that state what you don't want, because what you focus on is what you get. Kind of a law of attraction thing. So the language aspect is so amazing to me.
Okay, there's definitely similarities in what we do. Okay, I have a question though, because so I have undergone NLP twice. The first time was amazing. It completely worked. She used, I don't really understand how it worked, but she basically confused my mind so that it separated the trouble that I was going through and repeating this pattern of thinking of this person that I had broken up with and getting upset. And so she broke that pattern for me, and it was great. But then I learned enough about it that I think that was the downfall in the second time. It didn't work because I knew what she was doing. Is that something is that relevant, or have I created that in my head as a reason for why it didn't work?
I would say two things. I understand why it works, and I think you probably just kept it from working. So whether it's auditory, visual, feelings, our brain stores things locally. Okay, so for instance, if I ask you, you're thinking about something at this moment in your life, it was super, super happy, like one of the best times ever. Most people will say, if their eyes are closed, is it a big picture? Is it life size? Are you looking through your own eyes? Are you watching yourself? Most people will be very prominent. It'll be a large picture, it'll be a motion picture, whether they're looking through their own eyes or seeing themselves. So, but if I ask a person, what are you going to have for lunch? What are you going to have for lunch tomorrow? They might just have a blip, and you ask them where it is. They might just have a picture that's a still frame, smaller, off to the left, off to the right, whatever it is. Now, everything is our brain's association with it. So the brain will associate and put things that are troublesome in a place, and things that are profound in a place, things that are very relevant, things that are irrelevant, and it stores it in different locations. So if you get into that program and you find a picture, an image, a feeling, a sensation of a time that you didn't like, and you take that from being really big and you shift it to being small, and you change its colors, you move it around. When it comes up into your vision again, you replace it with the picture of you being happy, for instance. Your brain is changing its relationship to that process, changing its relationship to that event or that person. You're physically changing your relationship, so you will not feel the same about it when that's done properly. So I understand that's, to me, the why behind why that works is because our brain is a computer, and it's and we can tell it where to store things. We can tell things that's no longer relevant, and I don't want that to be relevant, right? And we change our association. But now if we have the event and we're trying to decipher it, and we're having doubts, and we're saying I'm not, and you're not really participating, it's probably not going to work. The other thing is, everything in our outside world, we're going to run into other things that bring us back to those memories and thoughts. So it's not only do you have to reset the programming, when you encounter things that bring you back to those thoughts, you have to reinforce that programming. So yeah, that's maybe sums it up here. I know we got a break coming up.
Yeah, we do have to break. I find it very fascinating because I think you might be right. Because I knew what she was doing, I'm more focused on that than like letting it reprogram me, I guess. I don't know. It's a whole big conversation, but we do have to cut to the break, so we better do that, and then we'll come back and we'll continue.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Back to Happiness Ninja Down Under, guys. I'm the host of this series, Jamie Rose, and you're listening to the Bold Brave TV network. I have Greg Kruger here with me today. He's coming all the way from Indiana. Thanks again for joining me, Greg.
Thank you.
So before the break, I was just sort of sharing about how I'd done NLP a couple of times and how it worked so amazing the first time, but then the second time, not so much. So I was thinking that if I share that in a little bit more detail, you might be able to explain it, because I'm sure there's people out there in the audience that have used these modalities, may not be NLP, but just modalities in general, and they have gone in with some kind of an expectation, or the way the modality wasn't exactly what they thought, or they perceived it as not working. So I think it's useful for us to discuss these things, and it can give a more well-rounded point of view, and to help people maybe not go in with these preconceived notions, or to know that just because it might not have been exactly what they thought it was going to be doesn't mean that it wasn't helpful. So is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I was going to say, you say you've done NLP a couple times. NLP is just a term for what two human beings, Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder, decided were the most important aspects to help people in the fastest possible way, right? Mm-hmm. How our brain and body works is not neurolinguistic programming. Neurolinguistic programming is just a method to try to explain that. But we do NLP, so to speak, every single day, because our brain is interacting with the data that comes into it, right?
Right.
And one of the key things that's most important is that, like I said, when we're born, when we're a baby, we have a pretty clean slate. We don't have a lot of neural connections. We haven't learned language. We haven't learned how to walk, how to talk, how to balance ourselves. And so what do? Those neural connections start to form in the brain every time we do something, and they're strengthened, right? So practice, we're good at what we practice. So we didn't go from crawling to running track, we learned to walk, we learned to run, we fell, and then then after time, what happens is our body and our mind from practice become better at doing it by itself than us thinking about it, because you don't consciously think about walking. Your body does it for you, right? You just set the intention of it. So I just wanted to note that we're good at what we practice. So when we go do something one time and it doesn't have an effect that we hope it would have, we can let ourselves off the hook a little bit and say, oh, maybe I need to practice it, because it takes time to build strong neural connections to keep them enforced.
Yeah, okay. So the thing that I'll clarify. So I underwent 2 different techniques. And so the second one, she was using different tones of her voice. Like she was doing some of her responses were really deep. Some of them were a bit slower and more deliberate. And I had learned that this was doing something. It was part of, the modality. And so when we were going through the session, I was like focused on like, oh, she's doing her techniques now. She's speaking in a weird voice. And I didn't actually get any help out of that session at all. And I couldn't help but wonder if that's because I was thinking about the technique she was using.
I would say so, because again, I think it's with meditation, as you know, we've got our conscious side of our brain, what we're focusing on, what our awareness is placed on, and we've got our subconscious, our unconscious brain activity, which is running our body and doing all those things. When we get into meditation and exploration, in hypnosis, guided meditations, what we want to do is shut the conscious brain off, because we want to get into the unconscious. We want to get into the place where we find out, is the picture stored over here? Is it stored over here? If I ask you, somebody sometime has said, and maybe it was you, or you have a voice in your head when you're down on yourself, or let's make this about happiness. How about when you fucking great job, like good job, you fucking did it. Where do you hear that voice? Where does that come from? Spatially, in your space, where do you hear that voice?
Like just in my head.
Or but if you think about it, when you're really excited, can you picture, is it in front of you? Is it surround you everywhere?
Yeah, I think it surrounds me everywhere.
So that might be how you are reinforcing to yourself, right? But maybe there's a negative tone, or somebody says something, nitpicky, or maybe somebody says something inconsequential and you hear it over here, you hear it over here. Your brain is still processing sound and storing it in the same way. So if you have a voice maybe it's a parent's voice that always said, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, and you hear it over here, well, and just like with the picture, we make it smaller, we change it, we can take that voice and we can make fun of it. We can make it a funny thing, a laughable thing, and now it's no longer as hurtful. We can, as a practitioner, I can be saying it over here in your ear, and then I can walk around to this side and say it. We can just move locations and tones and just change our brain's association with that data, is basically what it is.
Okay, yeah, and that's what the person did the first time. She basically turned, every time I thought about my ex and got sad, she turned it into this funny thing. Like she turned him into this flying Superman character with big feet, and a balloon popped, and I was like, so she gave this whole scenario like that totally flipped it. I was standing there like staring at her going, I'm so confused, what is she doing? And she totally broke it. I never ever went to that space ever again, never sat there crying and upset over him, and it worked completely brilliantly. It was like the flick of a switch. It was amazing.
That is the beauty of NLP, it's the beauty of our bodies, not NLP. Again, NLP is just a name. The beauty of our bodies is we collect data, we create belief systems around. Beliefs are just thoughts we keep thinking, and they're based on the data that we have and the connections that we have. And so we replay those. And when we change that, and I no longer look at this as a bad thing, now I look at it as a good thing. I never look at it as a bad thing again. I've changed my mindset. I've changed my mind around it. I've changed my neural connections around it. And now I'm reprogrammed around that system or that specific incident.
Yeah, it was crazy. She reprogrammed my subconscious. We do have to cut to another break. When we come back, we'll talk about the other side of Greg Kruger, the COO of DREEM Nutrition. So we'll be back in one moment, guys.
The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and you are on the Bold Brave Media Network. I have the awesome Greg Kruger here. Before we go into talking about the other life of Greg Kruger, the COO of DREEM Nutrition, I just wanted to wrap up our segment on NLP. So myself and a number of people, Greg, that were in my circle back in Australia. Now, I don't know if this is a cultural thing or not, but there's a lot of NLP trainers, I guess you can say, or facilitators or coaches themselves. And it seems that they're only trained on like maybe one or two or a few different aspects of NLP. And because of that, it can kind of give the name a bit of a bad reputation in terms of a lot of the entrepreneurial world uses NLP to basically like convince people to buy stuff. They use that modality in a non-ethical way. So I just wanted to have a bit of a quick chat about that.
Yeah. Again, this is where we go back to saying it's NLP is a way to just assist to pull out some of the aspects of how we work and put them in a nice little bundle. But at the end of the day, these people, we can say that they're using NLP, but in truth, they're just using they're using the way that the mind and body, the physical aspects and the physiology and neurology work, right? So everybody, I would agree, there's always a heads to the tails, and anybody can utilize something irresponsibly, and be manipulative. But at the end of the day, I think that when you get into your car, for instance, you got to know how to drive it, right? So the beautiful thing about NLP, or about how our body works, is when you're in this car and you're driving this car around for what we call our lifetime, It's up to you to understand how it works. So when you understand how it works, then you can hear other people using it in an ill way or an ill-intentioned way. When we talked about negative commands. If a friend of mine's walking out the door and we're getting ready to head somewhere and they say, hey, don't forget those keys. The very first thing, because I know my brain is thinking about forgetting the keys now and what that looks like. The very first thing I will say out loud, I will reprogram right there. I will say, I will remember the keys. And so because I understand language, I will allow that, because I know that the language creates the belief systems. For instance, when people talk about age and getting older, I don't subscribe to that. I don't have those conversations. We're not going to use those words. I get better with age. That's my story. I'm going to always tell it. So we can start the beautiful thing is with NLP is you can start to see how it exists all around us in our everyday lives. And when you understand how your car works, then you're aware of how other people are using their cars, right? So I think there are people that can discredit everything, but ultimately it's not about NLP. It's about how we work and how our brains work and creating the life we want by using that knowledge.
And that in itself is often discredited and viewed as woo-woo. But for those of us who have done the research and have looked deeper, we know that everything is vibration and energy, and that's been proven in science time and time again. You know, if you look at a snowflake or a drop of water under a microscope, you can see the way that language and energy changes it from a molecular structure. It's actually quite fascinating. People just have no idea the power of their words. Even for myself, you know, I know the power of the words, and yet the programming of a lifetime, it still takes over sometimes, and you find yourself saying things that you're like, whoops.
Well,
can I take that back? And you do have to reprogram it.
Yeah. And the other thing about language that's really important is that even though we're both speaking English, you and I speak different languages, because while we have a literal definition for every word also holds an energetic feeling, a sensation. So for instance, I don't like the word struggle, because when I think of struggle, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm a victim of something. You know, I'm struggling with this. So if that thing changes, then I'll be okay and I'm helpless. However, as a prior service United States Marine, when I have a situation that I face, I attack it. I own it. So if I'm having times that feel heavy to me, and somebody says, "How you doing, Greg?" I won't say I'm struggling, because then my energy is down. But when I respond with the words, I'm facing some life situations. When I use those words, life situation to me triggers attack, and so I change my language based on how words feel to be words that are most empowering to me. So super powerful trick for people to use too.
Yeah, definitely. You would totally love the strength profile, because it's very similar, but it's about our strengths and our weaknesses, or our unrealized and our realized strengths. So if you have an unrealized strength that you previously weren't aware of, you're not in knowledge of how to actually use that to overcome something that is a learned behavior or a weakness. So it's just interesting. It's all about the way that you face things and the picture that you paint of it in your head unconsciously.
Yeah. Like, I don't use the word weakness. I use areas of opportunity, because
exactly.
I think if, is playing the piano a strength of mine? No, but it is an area of opportunity that if I chose to take my time and resources of effort and attention and place them into playing a piano, then I could play the piano. It wouldn't be a weakness or an area of opportunity. It'd be something that I could do.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And from a strength profile perspective, so if you found playing the piano challenging, we would dissect and look at the language around why that is challenging in a negative way, and we would use something that is positive to basically approach the task differently from a different mindset, therefore creating a different outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Exactly.
Programming. We can call it NLP, we can call it strength this or whatever, but it's all doing the same thing. Change your association with the event or person or place or thing.
Exactly. And to place us in a position of empowerment rather than disempowerment.
Absolutely.
We do have to cut to the break again. It goes so quickly. So we'll be back in one moment. And then we will start talking about your life within the cannabinoid world.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network. Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and you are on Bold Brave TV. I have Greg Kruger here. He is the COO of DREEM Nutrition, and we are going to talk about CBD and what DREEM Nutrition is, and why CBD and cannabinoids are important. And hopefully we might debunk a few misconceptions as well, because Greg, you've been involved in the cannabinoid industry for how long was it again? I forget. I'm sorry.
Well, Dream Nutrition, we started as CB Dream, transitioned to Dream CBD, and ultimately Dream Nutrition. But since mid 2015, two of my partners, one who's no longer part of our team, started a company. It was in March of 2015, January of 2016, I joined them, and we built what is now Dream Nutrition. So we've been in the cannabinoid industry really almost as long as humanly possible in Indiana. And since the 2014 Farm Bill made it legal to start doing research with cannabinoids. So we've been at it for quite a while, really focused on education, because back in 2015, 16, some people still don't know about CBD. Nobody knew about CBD or any of the cannabinoids. So I think a really important overview for people to understand and to dispel some of the stigma around cannabis is that we know in cannabis, THC is the component that gets people intoxicated, that gets them high. People then know CBD as the non-intoxicating thing that has medicinal value, right? These two components are called cannabinoids. And there's over 120, some people would argue 200. I don't know the exact number that have been named, but there's over 120 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. So if you know that these two can do a lot, then what is the whole plant capable of doing? And that's where a lot of the research is going to head. I just want to note that CBD and THC, they're just movie stars. They're the first to come on the scene, to have prominent effects, but we'll start to see more about CBN, which is really powerful for sleep. THCV, a version of THC that's really good for energy and potential for satiety and weight loss. CBG, which is really good for GI tract issues, and other things that CBD is good for, such as anxiety and sleep issues. So there's just so many. But here's the beautiful thing, is that our bodies, when they were studying why THC affects the body and why cannabis affects the body, they found what they termed the endocannabinoid system. So endo being endogenous inside of ourselves, cannabinoid system just because they named it after cannabinoids, because that's why they were doing the research. So what they found was we make similar cannabinoids. We call them endocannabinoids, and cannabinoids from inside our body. CBD is a phytocannabinoid, it's just from a plant. But we make these chemical messengers that are very similar to what the cannabis plant makes. And these chemical messengers are responsible. We not only make them, but we have receptors in our body. And the endocannabinoid system is responsible for everything from pre and postnatal development to pain signaling, to healing speeds, to anti-inflammatory, to mood regulation and sleep. Runner's high is a part of the endocannabinoid system. So what is the big thing that this system does? Is it regulates our body and it keeps us in balance. And one of the big things it does is regulates and deals with inflammation. So when we start to look at what causes inflammation, exercise, obviously, impact on our body causes inflammation. Food we eat, sugar, is a huge impact on inflammation, and stress. So this is where NLP comes in, right? Stress mitigation techniques, because stress creates all those chemicals that are released that have inflammatory responses. So as human beings, we are in a day and age where if you're not dealing with our stress and we don't have a good diet and we don't have good lifestyle, the amount of impact that we are putting on our body cannot be managed by the endocannabinoid system in our own body. So why do these CBD products and cannabinoid products look like miracle cures for some people? Is because they have massive anti-inflammatory effects. So we take these plant-based cannabinoids that are similar enough to ours that our body can utilize them. It sets our body back in balance. I don't think that the cannabinoids are doing all of the healing. I think the cannabinoids are helping reduce the inflammation and supplement the system that's in our body so that our body can do the healing that it does. So all we're really doing is we're stressing our bodies and overstressing. And so we take this plant-based supplement that supplements that system in our body, and then we get these great responses, because every disease state has an underlying inflammatory issue. So that's why people see these are like cure-alls for all these diseases. It's not. It's just that since you're reducing inflammation, all of those diseases look like they're getting better because the body can now address them with the removal of that inflammatory response. That's one of the big drivers of these.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that people who have gotten really great benefits from CBD, if they continue to be on it, for a length of time, sometimes they do see like what they perceive as a reduction of it working. And I find it very sad that people will actually stop taking it and then wonder why a lot of their problems start coming back, because they haven't taken the time to actually understand how it works properly. And so then their expectations are unrealistic and they don't understand what's actually going on inside their body from a cellular level.
There's a couple things I'd comment on that. I think that most people, if they really owned their lives, stress mitigation through meditation, journaling, breath work, all these different things, prayer, whatever your modality, your practices are, but stress mitigation, proper diets, and just exercise. And if we really took care of our bodies, you would never need a CBD product, right? But the fact of the matter is we do need some supplementation, and there's that. Now the other aspect is Mother Nature makes things really good, and we as human beings take this plant that has 120 components, just talking about cannabinoids, and we say we just want that one, and we take CBD out, and we take that dose and we rack it through the roof, and then the body builds a tolerance. So yes, people can develop tolerances. Most times what we see is if they take a break from the cannabinoids and come back to the cannabinoids, they'll have the effect again. my recommendation is always try to balance with full spectrum or very broad spectrum products so that you're getting it as close to as what nature provides it, not just taking one component and expecting that to do the trick. And then just own your life. Own your life and use it as a supplement, not as you are the cure for your life. Everything outside of you is outside of you. So it can be a tool, but it's not the cure.
I couldn't agree more. We have to cut to the break, and this is opening a can of worms. But back in the 1930s, doctors used to prescribe tinctures from the whole plant, and from cancer to other chronic inflammation issues. It was one of their go-to methods until they decided to run with the other agenda and tarnish THC as a very evil thing. But anyway, we do have to cut to the break. We'll come back and we will wrap up this segment, and maybe you'll have a couple of things to say about that. We'll be back in a moment, guys.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. We are at our last segment for today's show. I can't believe how quickly it goes all the time, but time flies when we're having fun, doesn't it, Greg?
Indeed.
So because we don't have much time left, I think it's really important for people to understand that there is good quality cannabinoid products and bad quality cannabinoid products. Can you share some light on how people can source good products versus bad products, how they can tell the difference, and some things to look out for?
Yeah, so, research is always key. Know where you're getting the products from. I highly suggest that everybody, if you have questions, reach out, contact the company that you're considering buying your first product from. See how they represent themselves. Are they taking the time? Will they take the time? If I get a customer call and it takes me 30 minutes to an hour to help educate them, then that's what we're going to do, because we're here to help people. So I think when you inquire, you can really understand people's motives based on their response and what they're really trying to do. I don't want to put down any specific places to buy them, though I will say that if you're buying CBD products from a gas station or a convenience store, I think those are the ones that you really need to make sure that you research to make sure that they're quality products. Not that you cannot have quality products in these locations, because you can. But that's just important. So one of the things at Dream Nutrition that we do, and one of the laws in the state of Indiana, is we're required to put QR codes on our labels. So we have a batch number, and you scan our QR code. It'll take you to a website that hosts all of our lab results that we've ever done on any of the products that are made. And you look for your batch number, and you can find the results, so you can see what the THC levels are, if there are any THC levels, and what your cannabinoid balances are. So that should be available. Most people can have access to that through websites, but I would just take time to look at companies, make sure they seem legitimate, reach out to them, see if they'll talk to you, make sure that they have their lab tests readily and easily readable. And so that's the biggest thing. The other thing is, make sure you talk to your healthcare practitioner. Anybody out here, we don't talk about this being a cure-all or curing diseases. We believe that it supplements the system of the body. A lot of people are on prescription medications, cannabinoids. There is some belief that they can change different routes of metabolism and the speed of metabolism. So if they do change a metabolism speed that happens to affect a prescription drug a patient's taking, that's really important to know. So I would tell people, make sure you talk to your healthcare provider. If your healthcare provider is not versed in cannabis, then just go find another one. You don't have to fire that, he or she, but talk to a practitioner that is, to make sure that you're taking the right steps for yourself.
I think that's some really good information. Obviously, I want you to tell the audience as well about the products you have available. So do you want to quickly cover that?
Yeah, so our website is DREEM Nutrition, and it's DREEM with 2 E's, DREEM, dreamnutrition.com. And we started in just the cannabinoid space, but we actually have a 10 mushroom blend. We believe in natural plant-based medicines, but the driving portion of our product line has to do with oils. So cannabinoids delivered in a certified organic MCT oils. Some of them we supplement with terpenes. For people who don't know what terpenes are, they give plants their smell. But terpenes have medicinal value in the body as well, with inflammation, antifungal, antibacterial properties. So those get destroyed a lot in the processing. So we add some of those back in to revamp those products. We have topicals, gel caps, transdermal patches, and like I said, a mushroom blend, all on dreamnutrition.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Before we wrap up the show, I just wanted to tell you a quick little story. So CBD is still technically illegal in Australia. I think maybe they changed the law where there's some legality now, but it's still pretty much illegal. And a gentleman that I used to help back in Australia, he had like 70% of his stomach removed, and he had really severe arthritis. And we shifted him from one product to the other, and the second product was a lot stronger. So his medication, he started to get a side effect from his medication. So I told him he needed to go and consult his doctor, but he was like a crazy 70-year-old, ex-sailor guy. He was like, I'll just stop taking my medication. And I was like, please don't do that. I am not advising you to do that at all. But that's what he did in the end. And he went through a really horrendous come down period where he got shakes and stuff like that. But in the end, his body did balance out, and it was absolutely crazy what he did. But he did stay off that medication and just used CBD. So it was really incredible. But definitely don't advise to take life into your own hands like that. It can be hard to find a practitioner that is versed on cannabinoids, but it's worthwhile because what he did was highly dangerous, and yes. It could have worked out completely the opposite for him. Please, I would like people to note that this is it is serious, especially if you are on medication, and to consult with people who do know what they're talking about and listen to them, because your life is important and your health is important. Thank you. We have to wrap up. I've gone way over time.
HN20. I'll get a discount code for anybody watching. HN for Happiness Ninja. HN20. We'll do a 20% discount online at Dream Nutrition for anybody watching.
There you go. Thank you. I didn't even know that, but HN20. Go to dreamnutrition.com and get your 20% discount. Thank you so much for joining me, Greg. And thank you for joining me there in the audience. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Cheers.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Jamie will educate and empower people, organizations, and communities to help us all make better health and well-being choices. She will also engage you with expert influencers from around the world. So now, please welcome the host of Happiness Ninja Down Under, Jamie Rose.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.